So in April 2026, the OCC, the Federal Reserve, and the FDIC quietly killed off a 15-year-old rulebook that every bank in the country had built their entire AI governance program around. And in the same breath, they said, and I'm not making this up, generative AI and agentic AI, out of scope, novel and rapidly evolving. Good luck. Now, if you work anywhere near finance and AI, that should make your stomach drop a little, because out of scope doesn't mean you're off the hook. It means you now own the framework. And most teens I'm talking to right now have no idea. Here's the thing. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the actual levers you can pull to keep your AI compliant in financial services. Not the vague consultant speak version, the real primary source, regulator-published version. Let's get into it. All right, so here is our game plan. So first, we're going to look at the regulatory landscape as it stands right now at the time of this recording, because there are three important documents out there right now that basically dropped in the last 90 days. So we're going to map out what those documents are and what they say. Second, I'm going to teach you the 4-function mental model that every single one of these frameworks is built on. Once you have this, every framework kind of slots in that. It's kind of like learning the grammar before you learn the vocabulary. Third, we're going to break that down into 6 concrete levers you can actually pull as an operator. Not theory, not philosophy, actual things you can do. Let's get started. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Sunny. I'm a serial founder now on my 4th startup, and I'm a former senior engineer at Bloomberg and Shopify, and currently an adjunct professor at Columbia Business School, where I teach tech and AI. Now, I've been in this industry for a long time, so I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. And my goal for today, and really all my videos, is to help you make sense of this ever-evolving landscape of AI. Let's get started. So first things first, let's actually map out who you need to be paying attention to. Because if you Google AI compliance, you're going to get 100 consulting firms selling you 100 frameworks. We definitely don't need that. What we need is the primary sources. So there are basically 5 documents that matter right now if you're in financial services. So number 1, the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. So this is the foundational scaffolding. Think of it as the Constitution. Every other framework essentially borrows from this one. So it was released in 2023, and they essentially added a generative AI profile in 2024 that added like 12 risk categories specifically for Gen AI. This is the bedrock. Number 2, and this is the big one, the Treasury Financial Services AI Risk Management Framework. So this dropped in February of 2026. It's basically NIST adopted for finance with 230 control objectives mapped across the AI lifecycle. So Treasury developed it in partnership with the Cyber Risk Institute. It's voluntary, what they call soft law. But listen, when examiners walk in, this is the document they are going to be holding. Number 3, we have SR 26-2, also known as the OCC Bulletin 2026-13. This came out in April of 2026. This is the one that replaced SR 11-7, which had governed model risk management at every US bank since 2011. And here's the wild part. They explicitly carved Gen AI and agentic AI out, like in writing, novel and rapidly evolving, not within the scope of guidance. So take that for what you will. Number 4, we have the EU AI Act. So this is the high risk provision that will kick in on August 2nd, 2026. If you're doing credit scoring, fraud detection, or KYC for any EU customers, this catches you, even if you are a US firm. And number 5, we have state laws, of course. The big one right now is the Colorado AI Act, which goes into effect June 30th, 2026. It applies to high-risk AI making material decisions about consumers, which in finance is basically everything. So that's the landscape, 5 documents, 3 of them that came out in the last 6 months. This is why I'm making this video now. Okay, so now that we know who the players are, let's learn a little bit more about what is being said. So this is the part that once you get, kind of makes everything click. So NIST organizes AI risk management into 4 functions. Treasury adopted the same structure, by the way. Pretty much every serious framework uses some version of this. The 4 functions are govern, map, measure, and manage. Let's break down each one of them. So first we have govern. This is the foundation. So this is who's accountable, what does the policy say, what are the escalation paths, and who signs off on what. So this is the org chart, this is the policies, this is the training, the board reporting. And if you don't have this step, the govern step, the other 3 functions are basically just ad hoc tech exercises. So the second is map, which is inventory and context. Where is your AI being used in your organization? Who does it affect? What data flows in? What decisions does it influence? You'd be amazed at how many firms can't actually answer the question, how many AI systems do we have in production? So this step fixes that. And then we have measure, which is essentially testing. So evals, red teaming, bias testing, drift monitoring. This is where you actually get quantitative about whether your AI is doing what you think it's doing. And then finally, we have manage. Manage is essentially the response. So for every risk you've identified and measured, you make a call. Do you mitigate it? Do you transfer it? Do you accept it? Do you avoid the use case entirely? And then you build the incident response for when something goes wrong. So here is where it gets practical. So I've distilled down to 6 levers. These are things that you can actually do. So level 1 is data lineage and input governance. So what data trains your model? What data goes into your prompts? What's being redacted? What's being tokenized before it leaves your environment? Listen, in financial services, this is where I would say most of your real risk lives. PII, customer financial data, material non-public information. If any of that is flowing into a third-party model without controls, you have a problem. And this is a map and govern lever that you would have to pull on this. Lever 2 is model and vendor risk. Ultimately, AI is still your risk even if you're using a third party. And many of the regulations have made that explicit. So if you're using OpenAI and Anthropic, a fraud detection vendor doesn't matter. The regulated institution is the one that's on the hook. So you need vendor diligence, you need contractual protections, and you definitely need ongoing monitoring on what those vendors are actually doing. Then we have lever 3, and I think this is the one I think most teams underinvest in, which is use case tiering by materiality. So many of the frameworks out there will push you to right size your oversight based on materiality. So materiality is basically exposure times purpose. How much money is at stake and how critical is the decision? You don't need to validate your internal marketing chatbot the same way you would validate your credit underwriting model. So concentrate your validation effort where the actual dollars and decisions are. So lever 4 is human in the loop and decision authority. So who can your model say no to? Where does a human have to actually sign off? Many of the regulations out there have the basically build-in regulation to kind of have this human in the loop baked in. So for example, the Colorado AI Act require you to map every AI decision in your stack and ask, is this fully automated, partially automated, or human review? And how does the level of automation match to the level of materiality? Level 5, we have evaluation, monitoring, and drift detection. So this is the measure function in action. So pre-deployment evals are necessary, but not sufficient. Your model in production is going to drift. Your data is going to shift. Bias that wasn't there may very well show up 90 days after. So you definitely need to have a system in place for ongoing measurement, not just one-time audits. And then we have lever 6, so the audit trail and explainability. When an examiner shows up, what can you actually show them? Do you have identity linked logs, all the prompts that were fed into the system, all the decisions that were made by a machine or a human. These are all the things that definitely need to be leaving some kind of audit trail and easily accessible. So those are all the 6 levers. All right, so we're near the end of the video. I hope that gave you a really broad sense and broad understanding of all the different regulatory forces within the AI landscape. If you stuck around till the end of this video, I appreciate you. I will see you on the next one.